Hello and welcome. The other day, whilst I was yesterday, whilst I was streaming Star Citizen, somebody was referred over to me who is starting to get into helicopters within DCS. So, one of the things I suggested is before you start with your helicopters, you always need to start with the Huey. Not that the Huey is the best helicopter ever, etc., etc., but the Huey is the most basic of the helicopters, and it's you flying it. There's no fancy systems holding you up. It's just you. If you learn the Huey, and I have mentioned it every time I fly this, it will give you a good feel for every other helicopter they're on. Okay. Following on from
course, you said now midweek. What is this? Which
hello, mate. Are you all right? This is a very ad hoc one. So it is just literally a Huey for somebody who's thinking of starting helicopters. It was just a request from yesterday. I know the guys at work, so I said I'd do a video. And it's for Frickin' Die Special, I think. I think that's his name. And so I said I'd go through the Huey in his absence so that basically they can look at it and pick it up. So yeah, if you learn this, you'll get the fundamentals of every single helicopter, how they work. If you want to fly the Apache, I would always say start here, jump to the Shark and learn the trimming before you get to the Apache, because that will help too. So basically then, this is the helicopter. It's just got two blades and it's got a stabilizer on there. Four-bladed helicopters don't have that, you'll notice. It's also got a tail rotor. Okay, so when you move the helicopter, you've got pitch, roll, collective and rudder. Okay, so if we look closely, let me just get this off the bottom here. There we go. So you can see there's the center of the rotor. And when I push my stick forward, at the bottom, you'll see some conrods and something called a swash plate moving forward. And that is very gently tilting the rotor forward, okay? If I move left and right with my stick, you can see it move the other way. And the stabilizer moves the opposite way to the tilt on the blades, okay? If we look towards the end of the blade, you'll see, doing nothing, the blade is flat. So increasing the collective will put pitch on the blade. And again, you can see the changes there with the rods, plates and everything else. Okay. The rotor will spin round at the same speed. The difference is this pitch. More pitch, it bites into the air, will pull the air down, you will go up. Okay? However, in combination with some pitch on the blade and forward movement of the rotor, it will propel you forward. At the back, there's a tail rotor or anti-torque rotor. Because that thing on the top is spinning round, it will try and spin the helicopter as well. So the anti-torque rotor or tail rotor is used to counter that torque. Okay, and again, as we use our rudder pedals or twist grip, depending what you've got, you'll see that rotor turns. Okay, so using a combination of those axes is how we fly the helicopter. Sounds all very simple. If I switch on the little doodaddy thing, which I can't see in this view, of course. Right, you'll see that when I move, let me put that somewhere where it's nice and easy to see. There. Right, you'll see when I move my stick left and right, it's represented by the diamond. And the more left, the more the diamond moves to the left. If I use pitch, which is pulling the stick backwards and forwards, you'll see the diamond moves up and down. On the bottom here, right rudder and left rudder. The collective is on the left, and you can see it moving up. So it's pulling up. Let me move this back a little bit and pushing it down. That gives you more pitch on the blade. You can see the rotor at the end, look, starting to turn over. Okay, those are your control axes, and flying a helicopter is a balancing act. I once taught somebody who was a commercial pilot, and he said when they were learning going through flight, helicopters were referred to as swirly whirly death machines. And he asked me to teach him how to fly a Huey. This is going back many, many years ago. Okay, so they are quite unstable. If you Google on YouTube, there are a myriad of ways a helicopter can kill you. And the way the game simulates helicopters, it's really realistic.
My pilot told me it was like rollerblading on a skateboard.
Yeah, exactly. This is the point, you know, they have such a bad rep and so many things can go wrong. It takes a lot of focus, and surprisingly, it takes the most delicate of touches. And this is where people really get confused. Let me shut the doors. Even before I'm going to start up, I'll show you what I mean. So if we focus on what we call the cyclic, so it's your joystick, okay? So basically, it's a big spade in a bucket, okay? It'll move around anywhere. Now, when you're in a plane and you want to pull back, you'd be doing this, okay? And you'd be setting an angle so that you can climb. And when you want to roll, you'll be doing this. And when you want to dive, you'll be doing this. It's rare for you to need to do that within a helicopter. The movement and the control in a helicopter is more this. This is the exaggerated version, and I'll explain this a little bit more when we come to do hovering in ground effect. So this is the exaggerated. If I want the helicopter to move forward, I'm going to gently push the stick forward and then relax to the middle, and push the stick forward and relax to the middle, push the stick forward and relax to the middle. And that sounds a little bit weird, and that is the exaggerated version of it. The actual movement is this. Okay. Now I am moving that stick forward and relaxing it to the middle. And that's it. And you might not believe me, but I'll show you when I'm flying and you'll see. Just one moment, I apologise for this. I do apologise. I had to take that, and now I'm expecting another call from somebody who looks after front doors because my door's dropping. But anyway, so the movement on the helicopter is small. It's lots of micro movements. And an actual story, I had a go in a copter. I had a go in a helicopter once many years ago. And I mean had a go. I went to a customer's to sort the computer out because I worked in IT. And he was an instructor. And he said, have you got to rush back? And I'm like, you're thinking, oh no, what has he got for me to look at or while you're here job? And he said, do you want to come for a ride in a helicopter? And I was like, no, I've got to get back. Right. But anyway, we went for a ride in a helicopter and he's an instructor. And speaking to him, normally, he was younger than I was, like most people, but speaking to him normally, he was a bit out there somewhere. But I tell you what, the second he got in that helicopter, it was like somebody hit a big switch. And he went through some stuff with me. He lifted the helicopter up and did a very low level hover. And he said to me, right, your rudder makes the helicopter go, left and right or rotate round. And he says, what I want you to do is push the rudder to the right and turn the helicopter so it's facing the other way. So I literally pushed the helicopter to the right and it was fine. And then he said, I want you to push it to the left. Okay, no problem. So I'll start pushing it to the left. And then he went, more left, more left, more left. So I gave it more left and then I realised and I pushed it to the right and I went, did you mean right? Oh. So instead of gently going round and he kept saying more left, we started really going round, trust me. And I thought, this is going to be fun, right? And then he took me up and we were round about 1,000 feet doing round about... No, it was 1,500 feet, doing round about 100 mile an hour, round about that. And he said, right, this is the cyclic, and bear in mind this is dual control. And he said, I want you to, try and keep the helicopter nice and, level and get us moving forward. So what did I do? I pushed the stick like this. Right, I kid you not. Not a lot. But I pushed the stick and nothing happened. And I went, oh, surprising. So I pushed it a bit more. And then suddenly the nose dropped. And then I was like, oh, shit. So I pulled it back and nothing happened. And then I pulled it back again and then we went up. And we went along with me pushing this nose up, down, right? Like sort of, I don't know what. Like we're going on a roller coaster. He just laughed at me. He said, no, this is what you do. Feel the stick and I will do it. And I kid you not, I just put my hand on the stick and he went, no, put your finger and your thumb, just really lightly. And he did it. And he went along nice and straight.
Ooh,
and all he was doing, thanks for the follow, all he was doing was tiny little nudges. And ever since that time, which I tell you is years and years ago, I was already flying in flight sims by then anyway, so I had an idea of the mechanics of it. It was so light. Now I've got my stick is in between my legs and I've got a 10 centimetre extension, no laughing please, and so my stick moves more than it used to because this matches that so there. Okay.
Said, watching this is gonna make me want to get back in the frog.
In the frog. Okay. So my stick moves the same as this, but when my stick hadn't got an extension and it was on the bench, on my desk even, I call it a bench because the wood's so thick. Literally, when I go through certain exercises, you wouldn't even see the stick move. I tell you, I could make the helicopter move just by putting pressure, right, on my fingers. And I kid you not, it would move. And the delicacy with which you fly a helicopter is what is key. Tiny, small movements.
Already laughing.
Anyway, sorry about that, Macca, by the way. I cut you off as soon as you came in. Let me just get rid of this stupid selling bloody viewers. Why would I need to buy viewers when I always have at least, well, 5? Why would I need to buy viewers? Okay, so bear that in mind. So we're going to go through the startup, and it is going to be a very simplified startup. I'm not bothered about putting the radar altimeter on at this point. All we need to do is just look at starting it up. Okay?
Slimer Reno said, the urge to perform seed is strong.
So what I'm going to do is switch this. Now, these two knobs here, this little panel is what we're interested in initially. As you sort of move more through the helicopter, then I start adding things in. Otherwise, it's going to be too complicated and people don't remember. So we look for the air vent. We look over to the left and we've got a little panel down here. And we're going to put this AC power knob onto AC phase. And this DC one, 2 clicks onto essential buzz. All these do is change the view or what's displayed on some dials below. I never change them after that, and rarely do I look at most of the dials, to be fair. We're also going to switch the main generator down, and we're going to put the battery on. Now, as soon as we put the battery on, you can hear a siren. Okay, can you hear that? I've got different volumes on my end to your end, so I don't always hear it. Okay, so this is siren. If we look down to the left thigh, you can see next to this bright yellow fuel surround, low RPM audio. We switch it off and it stops that wailing noise. Now, when there's a pilot in the seat, if you look where the position is, he's sitting, right? This is the left knee area. This is the left thigh area. Down here is the left butt cheek. Here, just call it the dashboard, okay? And then you've got the co-pilot. So this is his right knee, right thigh, right butt cheek. And when you write things down, you want to think of where the position is. There's nothing worse than sitting in something, and if you're reading how to start up, you spend ages looking for gauges. Okay? If you write it down with LK and then what you're looking for, you know it's going to be in the left knee area. Very simple method for learning position of switches and buttons. Once we've switched off the low audio, we're going to switch the fuel forward. When I taught my other half how to fly, it was easier, instead of calling this fuel, call it the yellow matchstick. Okay? Because it looks like, in the old days, you used to get posh matches for cocktail bars, where it was like a yellowy or black plastic with a red top. Okay? We switch the fuel on. We make sure the triangle is forward, which is the governor. Okay? Following up this line of little lights, we're going to switch the hydraulics on. We're going to switch on the force trim, skip over this, and we're going to push this little chip detector forward and let go. And all that does is checks for metal fragments in the rotor casing to make sure it's not, faulty. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is turn. Let's have a look. Let's get this. It's not good on a red background, is it? We're going to turn the throttle. You can either turn it with a mouse wheel, or you can do it like this. Okay, that's the mouse wheel. Hold it and drag it, or use the page up, page down key. If you're trying to use this with an analog, there's a button like a stop. So it needs to be over a certain point first before you can move it. And it needs to be turned all the way up and then all the way down. and that will have enough fuel in the turbine to get it started. If we look at the dash, we're going to focus on this gas producer, okay? And we're going to hold the starter button, which I believe is the home key, down until this needle goes round and gets to 40. At round about 15, the rotor will start. If your rotor doesn't start and it won't increase past there, it means you forgot to put the fuel on, okay? Right, so there's the dial, there's 40. So I'm now going to hold the starter. You should hear the engine RPM starting up. We keep holding, the rotor will start turning. Can't see that at the moment. We're going to wait till we get to 40 and then let go and wait. Okay, if we change position, we can see the rotor's going now, and we can also see the RPM increasing here. Now, there's two needles there, although it doesn't look like it, there are. The inner dial is the rotor RPM. The outer dial is the engine RPM. What you want to do is try and keep these needles as close together as possible. Now, what I'm going to do is turn my audio up a little bit. So I can get a bit more feedback on the sound. Okay. So once we get to this point, we're going to slowly and smoothly open the throttle all the way. Again, I said you could use page up key if you haven't got anything you can use for a throttle. And as we increase it, you'll see these needles start to turn. And you want to keep them together as best as you can. Okay. Once this goes into the green, you'll see that your throttle still has a room to go. Keep on pushing all the way up to the top. Okay? You shouldn't need to worry about your throttle again. Right. When we look back down here, we'll see there's two lights on. So we need these to be off. One of them is IFF. One of them is the inverter. If we look over to the co-pilot's right knee, this radio system here is the IFF radio. You can switch buttons and everything. It doesn't really do anything. I think in SRS it might. We need to switch this one knob to the right. That's it. And the error's gone. The inverter is back to where we started. And we need to switch this down. I always switch it up. Okay. And then we also need to push the starter generator down. And we're nearly there. When we look, we can see there's a master caution warning light. And the reason we have a master caution warning light on is whenever any of these lights light up, this will come on and stay on until we deal with the problem. So when you're flying and we're looking that way, we're not going to see any of the lights down there specifically. We don't want to be looking down there. All right. So this comes on whenever there's a problem. Pay attention to it. We can reset it with a reset button. If we go backwards, it's a lamp test. If we go forwards, it resets the master caution. As this is a very old helicopter, it's a manual alignment. And the alignment literally means let's turn the electronic compass so that it matches the magnetic compass. If we look at the magnetic compass, you'll see it's 1.5 notches above the north towards 33. And just bear in mind that 33 is to the right on there, but 33 is to the left on there. So we use this synchronizing knob, and we're going to rotate it until the needle is in the same place. There's a little window here, and as we turn this, you'll see there's either a circle or a cross. If you can see a circle or a cross, it means this is in the wrong place. So you should have half a circle and half a cross, okay, for it to be where that is. Now, half a circle or half a cross is a little bit odd, because some person's half a circle and half a cross is different to somebody else's. And what I'm going to do now is, if we look at these major graduations, we've got 1, 2, and then we're there. If we look here, we've got 1, 2, and then we're there as well. So this looks as though it's just over there, but very close to there. And that's going to be good enough. That's more or less how that is when you look at it. But to me, I would say it needs more, because that's not half a circle and half a cross to me. But if I go there, that's more. Do you see what I mean? Too much. So let's go with that. Now, one of the things you've got to bear in mind is, if I turn this round and put the top, this little indicator here, you'll see that we get half a circle and half a cross. Okay? And I've flown with people who've done that, believe me. And so you need to make sure when you look at this that the numbers match. Has anyone got any questions so far, or are you all asleep? As I said, I'm doing this because somebody asked me yesterday while I was streaming Star Citizen, and they can't turn up today as far as I'm aware. But once you can get to grips with this, you're going to be able to fly helicopters. Right, as I mentioned earlier on, the tail rotor is an anti-torque rotor. It stops a helicopter from spinning, okay? So we need, because if we literally add collective, we'll go up, spin to the right, go forward, and roll over and crash, okay? So we need to counter that. So we're going to put round about a third of left rudder on this box, round about there as a starting point. We're going to go forward and then roll over to the right. So we're going to counter that. So as we start to lift off the skids, we're going to move this diamond down onto this quadrant to counter the forward movement and over to the right. Okay? So when you first start, just be really, really gentle with it. Okay? It's very easy to get in the air. And it's very easy to get in the air and look like Bambi on ice, if you know who Bambi is. Have I got one of those? Okay, right, so we're going to start increasing the collective, which you'll see here. And then as we start to get light, if we start moving to the left, turning left, then relax your left rudder a little bit. i.e. your feet or your rotation. If we go to the right, you need to add a little bit more on. So there we go. And now I'm countering that movement that's moving to the right to see if I can get the helicopter to stop. Okay. Can you see my stick moving, by the way? Helicopter's reacting to it. Okay, so we're up in the air. Now, when you first start, you're not necessarily going to get instant control. It doesn't happen. All right? It can be quite difficult, and you'll be, like I was in a real-life helicopter, bobbling up and down. Now, that's my only experience in a helicopter, by the way. Right, okay, so what I want to do next is just move down here. There's a windsock down here. That's not my helicopter making that noise, if you can hear it, by the way. I can't tell if that's a car or a bike. Can you hear it? So I got the windows open. Right, so there's a windsock just down here, and we'll have a look at the windsock. Now, unfortunately, I don't think there's any wind on. By the way, can you see how I'm nudging this helicopter and making it go where I want? And yet, the movement looks like nothing. I'll show you this now in more detail when we go into a hover. I can't see the windsock yet. I know it's down here. It does help if I undo my... Oh, there it is. I just need to... We'll have a look and see what the wind's doing. I don't think it's doing a lot, to be honest. I usually tweak the wind because I always find when you're learning helicopters, it's better to have a little bit of wind. Helicopters naturally turn into the wind. It's called weather vaning. And think of it like being able to lean on a wall. You know, when you've had too much to drink. Oh, that's the flag, isn't it? Okay. Right, so it looks like there's very little wind. I can also check the mission briefing. So with left alt and B right at the bottom, we're going to find the wind. At ground, 1 meter per second. The 360 and 180 is telling me the direction it's moving from and to. And it used to be easier when there was just one number because it's so easy to get mixed up. 1 meter a second is relatively negligible. And it's going at 180 degrees. Or where's that? Oh, we're pointing more or less south. So one of the things that you need to learn is how to get this thing into a hover. And we're going to do a hovering ground effect. And the way that works is the helicopter grabs hold of the air and pulls it down. And you're going to sit on a cushion of air in ground effect. And even though you might not have force feedback sticks, you can feel how the helicopter reacts when it's in ground effect. It's just different. And it's a bit like the air hockey game, if you know what I mean. So to hover in ground effect, what we're going to do is utilise the trimmer. So when we're in the air, especially in the days when this was flying properly, Vietnam as such, you've got a trimmer and you can trim the stick. Okay, because if you don't, your arm in real life would be completely worn out within probably 10, 20 minutes, half an hour or so on. In game, obviously, you're not going to get that. But the way the trimmer works in real life...
Just underscore Glenn said, morning, I thought
Morning.
it was Saturday for a minute.
No, this is a ad hoc one-off. Somebody wanted to learn helicopters, so he was thinking of buying this, so I'm going through it all, and hopefully it'll be of use. So the way a trimmer works is the cyclic is put into a position when you're flying, and then you trim it and the stick stays where it is in real life. So it uses either friction or magnetism, I think, to hold the stick in position. However, unless you've got a force feedback stick, your stick in real life will return to the centre. So in DCS there's a compromise, and the compromise is something called centre stick. So how does that work? Basically, and you have to be careful when your rotor's going because you can pop the rotor off and shear the pin. When you move your stick forward, right, and I'll show you when I'm actually flying, and trim it. Now you don't want to be doing this on the ground. Let me move my head a bit. As you can see, I've pushed the stick forward. I'm going to trim it. Okay. Now,
Oh,
What
hey, Dorian, Romania. Thanks for hitting the
Oh, thank you for the... Hi, Dorian. I take
Well
it's
said.
that's you, isn't it?
Dorian, Romania.
So what I'm doing now is I'm going to move my real life joystick all the way around, and I'm moving it at the full extent that I can move it. And as you can see, the stick in the game stays where it is, which means I am not inputting to the helicopter. I am not going to input until I relax my real life stick and it hits the center. When it hits the center, you'll see this stick do... It is you, Dorian, isn't it? You'll see the stick do a little wobble. All right, watch. There it is. Now, the stick in the helicopter stays where it is. My stick is back in the center, but the position of the stick in the helicopter, i.e. up here on the top left, is now my new center point. So when I move it, it's based upon that point. When I let go, that's the center of my stick. There's a trimmer reset on this, and if I press the reset, the stick in game jumps back, and now that's centered with my own stick. And that's important to understand. There's another setting which is instant, and instant you really do not want. What instant does is when you press your trimmer button, now it will set the stick in position in the helicopter, and then look at where your stick is in real life and add that to the position of the stick in the helicopter. So it instantly doubles the amount of stick you've got, and it will cause you problems. Now, doing it the way I've just explained, you'll find that you can learn how to control this. And I mean really, really fine, which is where you want to be if you want to learn how to fly helicopters in DCS. So what I'm going to do now is do the hovering in ground effect. And I've shown you this because once I get to a hover that's suitable, I'm going to trim it, okay? And the way I'm going to adjust is, as I showed you, if I'm drifting back, I'm going to move the stick forward, middle, forward, middle. Think of it like a nudge, right? It's going to be a tiny movement that you might not see. So I always say, I know it's a weird one, if you have a tennis ball on your table, on your desk, right, and you just flick it with the tip of your finger, you can roll that tennis ball towards the back of your desk. But what if you wanted to roll it, say, 2.5 inches? Or should I say 5 or 6 centimeters? Okay? How can you make it just roll that little bit and stop? And the only way you're going to do that is by gently flicking it a little bit at a time until you give it enough inertia to roll a little bit. Too much, it'll roll off the back of the table. Not enough, and it's not going to move far enough. So that's the sort of movement you're looking for and the control on this. Okay? And I'll show you what I mean. And you should see when I trim. I'll tell you when I trim. So I'm going to take off again. And I'm going to lift the collective up. And I'm just going to grab hold of the helicopter, get it steady. And I'm going to turn to point my nose into the wind. Hopefully it is this direction. And I'm going to get the helicopter as steady as I can. And then I'm going to trim it and let go of my stick. You saw the wobble? I want to see what the helicopter does. I don't want it to go into those trucks. So
Sly Marino said, it'd be real silly if I stuck a metal pipe in the tail rotor.
Oh yeah, it causes problems. Right, so let's just move the stick. I'm moving the stick to the left and centering it again constantly. And I'm going to trim it again. No, I'm drifting back, so I'm going to move it forward. Forward, middle, forward, middle, forward, middle. You see it slow down and stop, trim it again. No, I'm just going to do it just a little bit more. You can see it's like pushing back. See my stick moving forward and middle? No, you can't. Trim it again. But you can see the stick.
God, the F14 looks so tempting.
Can you see the way this is reacting to those inputs that I'm putting in? Look. Okay, it's not too bad. It's drifting back a bit, so let's compensate for that. Let's push the nose forward, middle, tiny little bit until it stops moving. And just at the point it stops moving, then I'm going to trim it again. Let's see what it does now. And it's getting there. Now it's always best to try this at a base or where you've got all these tiles. Can you see you've got horizontal, vertical lines, etc. And you don't have to get it 100% stationary. In fact, it's really difficult to do that. However, once you've trimmed, and you can see where the diamond is on the top left, watch, when I want this to stop, I've got a control that right in my hand that will now stop it. Okay, and if it moves too much, I can trim it a little bit better. My point being is you want to get it sitting on this cushion of air as steady as you can. Now I've moved over the grass, right, there's dust and everything. It's not a good reference point, so I'm going to move the helicopter forward and get back over there. Now it might be that the wind is more than I thought.
Makes me realise that my bud who flies the hand-on controller, it's just wild.
Flying it on controllers really difficult. I think controllers can just about do stuff, but you run out of fingers, and because sometimes you're going to have to resort to keys potentially, which is quite difficult to do with a controller. So I'm just nudging this helicopter forward. Okay, and then I'm going to let go of my stick again, and in fact I might trim it around about there. Let's move it a little bit more. It is blowing back a little bit more than I anticipated, but you know, we'll get on top of that. I should have set the map up first, set my own wind, which is what I usually do, and then I know what I'm dealing with. And we're moving forward a little bit. We can see the lines now, and I'm making adjustments all the time. As I said, when you get to a point, you just want to get it where it's reasonably balanced, and then once you put your hand on the stick, you should be able to, with a slight adjustment, get it to be fairly stationary, as you can see. Okay, and trimming will help you do that. Now the reason why I teach this, and I'm not going to do it now, is because once you can do this, you can sling, as in physical slinging rather than using a script. Okay, and you can change your trim as you're going along if you need to. Right, you're not stuck with a trim that you've set, or you can take it off completely. But once you can do this, right, it is lifting back a little bit, isn't it? The helicopter is actually floating, as you can see, on a cushion of air. Right? As long as it doesn't move too quick, it should really stay quite low. And it is just hovering. And what in theory should happen is when you face back the way you set it, it should slow down. I'm not sure whether this is going to, but it should slow down and more or less come back to a stop where the trim was set. But this isn't going to, is it? You can tell. But if you want to stop it, you should be able to do it really, really easily. Look. This is why I always like a bit of wind blowing, like a wall to basically lean against, because I find it much easier for people to be able to set trimming up. But you can see you can control it down to whatever you want. When you're learning, always do it over tarmac. Okay? Once you can get to that stage where this is moving, and you want to then start, for want of an expression, working out how big your chopper is. I know that sounds a bit of a weird one, but when you learn to drive a car, the first thing you ever do is you move too far away from the car when you overtake. You have no spatial awareness about how far your left is, how far your right is. So as a consequence, you move really out when you overtake. Okay? And when you look at gaps, the car always seems much bigger than the gaps that are in front of you. So what we're going to do is do a little exercise, which is far better up there, but we'll use some of the trees. You need to understand how long the chopper is. Hey, Kev. What, you got a break at work?
Thank you for the prime resub, Kevlet.
Thanks, Kev. You're not at home, are you?
Really appreciated.
Right, can you see how I'm moving this helicopter, look? I want to move a bit quicker. Watch, it's moving quicker. Can you see? And look at the stick. Right, so what you need to do, I'll just relax off the stick a little bit. We want this to be as slow as we can make it.
Kev said, 3 days off. Need to service and mow the M3.
Oh, right, okay, no worries. And someone's going to be thinking, oh, you work on the motorways? Right, okay. So the next step, you need to understand where your blades are. If you are flying in 2D, it's quite different to flying in VR, okay? You fly in 2D, you'll see a space, and the space always looks less than it really is, okay? So what we've got to work out is, can we go through this gap without damaging the blades? How long's the helicopter? Where do the blades come to? Can we get through there? I'll probably crash. Yes, we can. Brilliant. When you first start flying, you're not going to know whether you're going to be able to get through there, and you'll avoid it. But in certain circumstances, you will have to fly close to buildings. You will have to fly down in towns where you've got lights and all sorts. So you need to get control of the helicopter. And control is by knowing where it is.
Change.
Oh, fair enough. It's getting nice weather now, although it was cold last night. Now, the best way of doing this is around solid objects. Trees are collision now. They never used to be in the old days. And the best way of doing it is...
And clear skies tonight.
Oh, excellent. Lisa's on a 12-hour. So she's not going to come out. Right, so the best place is the hangars. So this is Krasnodar Central. Okay, and as you move up the map, you'll find there's all these hangars, and they're really good to practice handling because they're nice and solid. You go wrong, your helicopter will fall apart. Okay, now the beauty of it is that it's so quick to start it up. I mean, I was obviously explaining it, so it took a little bit longer. But the hangars are ideal for practicing manoeuvring, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. I'm not going to do the slinging bit, and it's going to be really difficult for people to get to this stage at first. But usually, when I've taught people to fly the Huey, and Kev will vouch for this, on the first lesson, people can sling load. And the only way you're going to sling load is if you can make the helicopter just sit there, which means you're going to get control. I've never been worried about them putting it down again, because that's something different. So here's the hangars, a little bit further up the airbase, and there's a nice space between the hangars. So I would fly around those hangars with a helicopter, keeping it nice and low. The way ground effect works is that it's effective one diameter height of your rotors. So as long as you keep, you'll see where I am, look, right, as long as you keep low enough down, you're sitting on a cushion of air. And remember what I said, and I've said multiple times about how much stick movement is needed. Watch my stick as we go. Watch the diamond, right, and you can see there's so little movement. But what I'm trying to do is fly with control. So you've got gaps in these hangers, which you've got to work out. Can I fly through the gap? Where are my blades going to come? It's going to blow you around. Remember the ground effect. The air comes down, hits the ground, bounces back up. Well, when you've got things in the way, it's going to bounce in all sorts of directions. Okay? And this is the sort of exercise you want to do. It's not the fun bit, going around shooting, killing, picking things up and everything else. It's stuff that will help you with control.
Hey David Ukes 3025. Thanks for hitting that follow button.
Thanks for the follow.
Thank you for the follow.
So
David
literally, it's
3025.
just control. And once you can start to get the gist of this, and believe me, when you first start, you're going to be gripping the stick too tight, your hand's going to be sweating, and you're going to be really sort of stiff with it, so to speak. And as it, again,
if I remember correctly, I found the hardest part is transitioning into a hover from speed where you want to stop without a VRS.
yeah, we're going to cover that a little bit in a minute. So you want to find out, right, and fly through these gaps. And you also want to understand, what if I was to fly through sideways? Could I fit through the gap? What if I was to start turning and fly with my nose?
Said, hi, mate.
Hey, I
see lots of things from Graz Centre. Sickens me how smooth you are just cruising around.
It shouldn't sicken you, matey. This is why I do some of the things that I do, and I've been flying this thing for a long time. It still catches me out, right? But the point is, look at my stick movement, right? And you can see the helicopters moving, you can see the speed changes, everything changes. But this is what I did when I was learning. On one of these, right, for instance, when I learned to play the guitar, I had the Beatles Complete music book from many, many years ago for guitar, and I put it in front of me. I had a picture of a neck which told me what the notes were, and I could read music at the time, and I'd play a note, right? I'd have to look at the music, look at the picture, pluck the string, and then I'd go to the next note. And if ever I made a mistake, I'd go back to the beginning. And by the time you get to the end of the piece of music, you've remembered it all. And when you fly these things, if you do little bits at a time, instead of trying to do everything all at once, you'll find that you'll learn the bits you're repeating. So for instance, you're going to crash, but do the startup manually and you'll suddenly find you don't even have to think about it. Fly around obstacles. Now imagine...
Were the Beatles big back then?
No, matey, they'd long since finished. But I do remember the Beatles Complete book for guitar came out.
Have you done a YouTube video series on learning how to fly choppers in DCS?
I did one many...
What's the shit out of that?
I did one many years ago, and now I've actually got time to do the videos. I've got all the equipment to do it. I know how I want to do it. I just haven't done it yet. But I should be doing that, to be honest. So you can see, right, it's just practice, it's just control. Now something Kev's mentioned is right. He's talking about transition, right? So transition, basically, we're in ground effect. And what I'll do now is we'll move over towards the runway. I might not necessarily take off on the runway. I'll take off on possibly the side or whatever occurs first. Now you can see, hey Platy.
Do you know how to do a VRS?
Oh, I am very experienced at VRSs. I think everybody who flies helicopters in DCS has a lot of experience. So let's have a look to see what Kev was talking about. And basically, he was talking about something called transition. So let me slow this down a little bit and come back down to this little slip road. Can you see the way it's slowing down? And yet again, as I said, the joystick's barely doing anything at all, or the cyclic. So what you would do if we were going to take off, bearing in mind I am now going to have to reset my trim when I'm down, because it would be done manually and wait till I'm in the air. I got that tip. One of my viewers is a pilot. He was a crop sprayer, so he used to fly over the crops down in New Zealand, low level flying all the time to spray all the crops. So he's like hedge hopping, and he's a really good pilot. And he saw my stream quite some time ago and said, you shouldn't be setting trim while you're on the floor, which is fair enough. Right, so I'm going to lift up and then start nudging the helicopter forward. The speed here in knots, all right? And there's a speed we'll get to, and we're going to start do lifting. You've what? I have done 3 startups, take off and land in the Apache. Oh, have you not flown the Apache before? Or have you only ever done 3 startups? Is that what you're saying? I'm not quite sure. And I'm not sure why you're not speaking. So we're going to start moving forward. Oops. Distractions. As we move forward, right, the helicopter's going to try and climb. And as it starts to climb, I'm nudging the nose down. And then, look, by about 60, usually I think it is. No, it's not quite 60, is it? It will take off and we're up in the air. When you're up in the air and moving along at speed, you'll find you can relax off the rudder, okay? And then when you're trimming here, we're trimming for forward flight. So if I trim that about there, relax my stick, obviously needs to go a little bit more. Now we're flying along. Okay, we're not flying too fast yet, but we will do soon. And you really don't want to go too fast, okay? I've got no load on or anything. I'm just over 100 mile there. And it just flies around. So when it goes through that, you'll see. Oh, really? I didn't realise, matey. Oh, excellent. The Apache has got a lot better than it was. When it first come out, it would just dump on you. That's because everybody over-talks it. And then when you over-talk the helicopter, it shouts out low RPM, so it drops the RPM because it can't deliver what you're asking. You'll find the tail rotor will start to be ineffective, and then the rotor blades will be ineffective as well. So what Kev was on about, first of all, the transition back. We've got to get back.
Ozdeadmeat said, I flew the Apache for the first time in about 6 months. It is significantly better than it used to be.
Well, I don't know, because I managed to learn to fly it every single time they changed it. And I used to deal with the way that it used to fly when it first come out. What I don't know is, have they made it easier to fly, or have they made it more realistic or less realistic? And that's what I don't know. And it's a shame if they've made it easier to fly because people had problems with it. Because that's like putting a trimmer reset on the Apache when a trimmer reset on the Apache does not exist in real life. And that is because people were blarting about there's no trimmer reset. You don't use a bloody trimmer reset in the Apache. The same way as you really don't use a trimmer reset in a Shark. Okay? So what we've got to do is come down and land. And what Kev is saying, that the difficulty he had, and this is the same thing everybody will get, is when you come down to land.
Based on the SMEs I have spoken to in the CB, it's much closer to real life, but it is going to get even better when the new rotor physics come out.
No, good. That's excellent. I mean, I like it difficult. And it sort of, you have to put an effort in to learn it. If you want easy helicopters, then, you know, you just fly helicopters in a game with your mouse and keyboard and that's it. But if you want DCS, you know, things are not going to be easy. This thing looks so easy to fly. And believe me, it's easy to get in the air. And then from then on, then there's difficulties. Okay? There's some... I used to, at one point, there was a couple of missions I did when I used to write missions. And it was literally pick some troops up, fly over, and just drop them off. But you had to drop them off where you'd got sort of trucks in a circle and a tent, and you dropped them off in that circle. And what that helped was takeoff and landing, and landing is going to be your hardest bit. So we're going to come down, and there's a couple of ways of coming down. You don't want to do it like in the cinema, right? What I mean by that is, imagine we're up here and we're just going to come down in a straight line. So first of all, let's slow the helicopter down, right? Again, look at my stick, look at my speed. You can see it just dropping down like crazy. But look at my stick. How's my helicopter slowing down so fast? Do you know what I mean? Again, stick. Right? I'm going to lower my collective as well. And watch what happens. Let's slow down in a minute and stop. Right, it's getting there. Right. And so we've got no forward movement. Now, see my helicopter starting to shake. Now I'm going to start coming down. Like you see in the films where they just come down straight down. Right, I'm dropping and the helicopter's just literally... There we go, it's gone. Right, it's going to now drop. Unless I do something. So what we're going to do is get into something called a VRS. Okay, going to start lowering. And then it will just start to drop like a brick. I don't know why it's not. It's doing things it shouldn't do. Let's accelerate it, shall we? So what will happen is it'll drop. There we go. It doesn't like it. And then you lose control of it. Okay? So there's a way out of it. And I'll explain what goes on and what happens in a minute. And that was such a bad example. It just didn't want to do it. But effectively, as I said, the rotor turns and bites the air and pulls it down. If you start dropping without moving too quick, and you can detect it by this little gauge here, right? If you drop too quick without movement, you'll go into something called a vortex ring state, okay? And a vortex ring state basically means that instead of having lift, because you're dropping in the air that your helicopter's pulling down, so the wind pattern around your blades goes from something stable into just turbulent air, and you're just falling into a whole junk of messed up air. So the natural inclination would be to give it more collective. to increase that pitch on the blades. But then that pulls more air down, makes it more turbulent, and you start to drop like a brick. Okay? And that's called a vortex ring state.
Like trying to tread water in a whirlpool.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. So the more you're paddling up, something's sucking you down, and that's what happens. So when you come into a land, there's a couple of ways of doing it. We can just come straight in like this, and now I'm moving my stick a lot more, because what I'm trying to do is reduce my speed. I'm coming down and I'm dropping my stick, and I'm keeping an eye on that little indicator. Now while you're moving, it doesn't matter too much whether it's quite low down or what, but as soon as you slow down and you've got no speed, it means you're going to get into that dirty air and that vortex ring state. Okay, so when you're coming into land, you don't want that needle. You see the way that's just under the 5? See the way the helicopter's shaking? We're just on the edge, right? So I'm going to let it go forward a little bit. And I'm nudging. There we go. Now we're back into the safe zone, into the I forgot the name of it. Ground effect. And suddenly we're starting to hover again. Do you see? Now, if we come down too fast, doing just that bit is really difficult. And the easiest way of doing it is use circles. So what I find, especially when people are learning, is if you move around in circles, you can get down a lot easier. So we're just going to turning. Think of skiing, snowboarding, jet skiing, and all those sort of things. Going round in circles, right? You're braking against the air, and you can actually start pulling down your stick, slowing down. See how fast it slows down? We're still moving though. Keep it moving. And what you want to do is get down into a hover and then land. If you try and land straight down, you're going to probably tip over or hit a vortex ring state. So I'm keeping an eye on everything that's going on. Okay, when that needle starts to drop, I'm giving it a little bit more. I'm going to bring it lower down, and I'm just going round, and I'll go round and round as many times as it takes, trying to get lower to the floor. You can see the needles drop, but because I'm moving, I'm not going to hit that vortex ring. And now I'm starting to pull back a bit more on my stick, lift it up, add a bit more collective, and then I'm back down onto the hover. Okay, you think of it like a hover. If you can come down to hover, right, then landing from there in this hover is easy. It's like stepping off a sort of few feet, and then you can just gently maneuver it down and stop. There's also really hard landings, or what you call combat landings as well, that you can do, but coming down to land is the hardest thing you'll ever do. And it's again all about control, all about watching there. It takes probably around about 10-15 feet to recover from a VRS if you get in one, and the way you recover is not to give it more collective, it's to give it less. So you push the stick down and flatten the blades, and then you push your thingamajig. Now normally I've said, right, barely little movements. You push it in a direction, doesn't matter what direction it is. When your rotor is flat, it will work in any direction. Push it whatever way, and as soon as you move out of that air, then you start increasing the collective and then getting control. And you'll see it happen with the Apache. But that's all you've got to do. It's very counterintuitive because you're so used to trying to use the collective to give it more, and pushing it back, pushing it forward so you flatten your blades gives it less. But that's how you get out of VRS. Now, I've done quite a few different areas here. What else? I haven't got any cargo because I haven't set this up for my sort of training normally. So I would basically do the startup, go round about hovering, explain how the controls are supposed to be really, really gently moved and not big movements at all. Mentioned about VRSing, which you will all experience if ever you try one. Effects of ground effect occur, and I'm a bit of a, oh, wait 1 minute, when I said I hadn't got any of these things on. Yes, I have. I didn't realise I'd put them on. I must have picked up a really old mission. You see all these cargo things here, look. I think one thing I might not have is the right amount of wind. So we've got some simple ones there. And me being the arse that I am, right, if you look down here, right, just by that building, there's one. And if we turn around again, you'll see there's a building here, right. Did I put one on? Yeah, look on the top of that building there. Can you see it? There's a cargo. And there's also, I think, one of the buildings over there. And the reason why I've done that is when you learn to sling load, you've got to be able to control the helicopter first. As I said, everybody who I've taught can pick up a load. I can show you actually, I didn't think I'd be able to. So when you learn how to do that hovering in ground effect, it means you should be able to go and pick up a load. So we'll go and have a look and see how we do that. So I'm going to just pop my helicopter down over there. I know where it's going already, so I'll come down.
Good Lord.
Get into
Is this mission from version 1.5?
No. I've updated and just quickly thrown these things on. I think this is on it's quite a late version of Thingamajig. So I repeat the things. And the reason I do this is I give somebody something easy to do. For instance, I get people hovering in ground effect, and when they are happy, they show us, right, whoever's on. And then we take it in turns. And then when they're happy, then they're ready to go and sling load, right? Now, bear in mind, I haven't set this helicopter up. I've reset everything. There's the sling load, right? The way you pick a sling load is you select it from the F10 menu. So, let's go back here. And if we go here, all cargoes, you'll get a list of any cargo that is in your vicinity, starting at the closest. So looking here, it's likely to be this one. So I'm going to pick it, okay? Note the weight, 900 pound. That's because normally there's a wind, right? And we'll see how much wind there is.
Flying said, I've dropped plenty of big loads.
I'll bet you have as well, and that's just today. So we're going to select it. Right, when we select it, it might not be that one. It's over there. Look, that one we're close to. Okay. Ah, right, the wind's a bit better than I thought. So you can see the wind blowing, right? So that's going to give me an opportunity to put my nose into the wind and set my helicopter up, okay? Now, there's another couple of things we need. We need the altimeter on, which is why I don't normally stick it on. I usually use it just for slinging.
Ozdeadmeat said, send you a DM at Platty trying flying. I run a server if you want somewhere to practice Apache stuff.
So what I'm going to do is look up here and you'll see this ridiculously big, right, toggle switch. I'm just going to move it forward. Okay. If we look down here, we've got an altimeter. And what I'm going to do is move the high level. Now, for me, this is a pretty useless device. So, if we set a high level,
great, thanks.
right, then basically it will tell me if I'm too higher than that level. When we set a low level,
Kev said, the load is swinging side to side 40.
when we set a low level, you suddenly see this burst into life. If we're less than the low level, which we are, it says low. If we're high, it says high.
Ozdeadmeat said, low hashtag triggered.
Right? Now, we're on the ground. The thing that is important is the number. I don't care about the settings. It's the number. Because we're going to be carrying something. And how do you know when it's on the floor? Right? It's not even that one I'm going to be carrying, right? So when we look, if we do right shift and K, it gives you some keys. It also tells me the cargo that I've chosen is £899, which is heavy. The reason that you have to make it a bit heavier is because of the wind effect. The rope length is 49 feet. So if you look at the cargo itself, that's probably 2.5 to 3 feet. That's 49 feet. In fact, we'll turn around and look at the cargo we're going to pick up, shall we? It's probably a bit easier. So let's just turn this round. There it is. Now, there's only you who selected that cargo, right? Can see that red smoke. No one else can. And once you've selected it, no one else can select it. So, 49 foot there. This is about, what did I say, 2.5 to 3 feet to the pickup thing on the top. What height should I be hovering over the cargo to pick it up? Answers on a postcard. Anybody? Without, obviously, the people who know. What height should I be picking that up? So I've got a 49 foot rope, 2.5 foot. Everyone's going, what's a foot? Just think of the numbers. A 49 something, whether it's meters or whatever, and a 2.5 meter cargo height. What height should I be to pick it up? Okay. So, has anybody said 49, 52.5 feet? Switch that off. That gets in my way. Because if you have, you're completely wrong. If you're going to hover, the higher you're going to hover to pick that up, the harder it's going to be. Because any tiny little movement up there is going to be amplified at the end of the rope. There's different ways of picking that up. I can land next to it and it will automatically put my hook on the thing, which is a waste of time, right? But if I hover really low over the cargo and I'm steady, then it will hook it. Now, there are switches that you can set within the controls, if I show you. And if we look here, there's external cargo auto unhook and external cargo hook. Okay, so pressing that will hook it. Unhook, auto unhook basically means when you touch the floor with it, it will release. Okay. Cargo for multiplayer, I don't know whether it's still bugged or not, But those are the two that I use, down to hook. But I think nowadays that if you just hover in the right place for the right amount of time, it'll pick it up automatically. So we'll try that first, and if it doesn't, then we'll try it with a switch. So what I want to do with my helicopter is get it trimmed nice with my nose into the wind, which is blowing slightly different to what I thought. And what we're going to do is lift up and use the direction of the wind, the smoke there, right, to trim my helicopter until it's balanced. Okay, now I can do it like manually, but it's better if you've got it trimmed, because then your inputs are going to be less. Okay, I've trimmed it. It's a little bit pushy back. I'm just going to try and trim that out a little bit. Okay, that'll probably be good enough. I should better hold it steady. Or maybe a little bit more. Okay. Now, the one thing I forgot to tell you, where's the hook? Obviously the hook is outside, and if we look outside you'll see the hook underneath the helicopter. So the hook, actually I can't see it, is right at the centre of gravity underneath the rotor. If you look, the rotor runs through that silver box, okay, not too far from the front of it. If we get in the helicopter and look round, the rotor's running down the centre of this box, and it's a little bit further back, and you've got a leg that gives you a centre. Follow it through. Here's the centre, and here's the centre. So you've got a point of reference. So you've just got to think that over my shoulder, this could be, I don't know, probably 8 to 10 feet back, or maybe a few meters, whatever number system you used. So that's the bit I need over the cargo. And what I want to do is pull up in front of the cargo, make sure my helicopter's steady, and then nudge the helicopter so it slides over the cargo. While I'm doing that, this guy here is going to be going forward, forward, left a bit, steady, right, and stuff like that. And I'll see a little message. And imagine there's a circle, right, over where you've got to pick it up. And the idea is you hover within that circle and you don't move up and down, and you stay within that circle for a few seconds, and then it'll pick it up. If you're moving around too much, it won't pick it up, okay? That's the plan. So you want to be as low as possible. Make sure your skids don't touch the cargo. That's easiest said than done. It's not until you're in VR that you realise how high up you are in this. So as I'm moving forward, I'm making adjustments, because what I want to do is move up, put my head in the smoke, and then try and slide over. I don't want to move this fast, so I'm going to slow it down. And I haven't done this myself for a long time. Okay, I'll get steady and then just gently nudge. Now the annoying thing is the red smoke is in the way. It's a pain in the ass. But as you see, we get closer. Okay.
Forward in position.
Right, now that little bit has pushed me back. Now you can either just nudge the helicopter back, right? But the point is, now you've lost visibility. You're not quite sure where it is. So it may be better to come back a little bit, get a fix on it, and then do it again. Remember, we don't want to hit the... just a minute. We don't want to hit the cargo. So I'm going to move back a bit more, or better still, just go around, do it again. I'm a little bit higher than I want to be as well. So we'll just turn round and we'll make an approach again. Now notice that the smoke has gone, which is better, personally, because that smoke is too dense. And I need to move my footstool. One of the reasons why I have a little bit of a problem, I've actually got a footstool over my pedals, because when I'm not using my feet, I put my feet up, because I've got a bad leg. Right. Well, there's the cargo. Right, this is about the right direction. And now we just slide over and hopefully it picks it up.
In position. You are moving.
Okay. Now slowly go up. Remember we got a 49 foot. Okay. And we should have some cargo dangling off the bottom. Now, in a minute we're going to get all sorts of messages. Okay, and it will go, the load is swinging. If you let that load swing too much, there's a couple of things going to happen. What? Okay, one is that it will pull you around. It's a 900-pound weight swinging off a 49-foot line, and it will pull you around. Okay, it will also pull you down. When you come down to land, we've just added 990 pounds of weight on this helicopter. So when you come down to land, one of the biggest problems you're going to get is it'll pull you down with it. As we start to go down, it'll accelerate and then drop you. If you drop it and you're moving, right, the parcel will fall over and be damaged. So imagine that it's Timmy's Christmas presents in here. So there's an orphanage somewhere over there and you're going to deliver it, and all the kids are waiting at the orphanage and they're all watching as you lower it down, and if it falls over and breaks, you've wrecked their Christmas, right? Some of the kids might be suicidal, I don't know, but it's on you, so you have to be careful. Okay, so we can see now that we're at 380 feet. If we move forward, this load is just going to be pushed back. Okay, I might lose the load. As I said, I haven't done some of this myself, but then again, Mark Spitz's trainer couldn't swim, so when you're flying with it, you have to be careful. Gentle movements, not great big movements. You start whizzing around like we were earlier and you're going to get into problems. So this is gonna, or should basically go back as we start moving forward. Now there's a brilliant mission on this particular mission, or a submission, where you've got to take a load of cargo from a point over there and deliver it over there somewhere whilst you're under fire. Okay, so as we're going along, see the cargo, it's not that bad actually, but I'm getting higher and higher. I want to get higher, and we're moving, and that cargo's, there we go, it goes back. Now if I was to suddenly stop, that cargo is going to swing forward, and then we're going to get into all sorts of problems. So what I'm going to do, switch on auto unhook. You see it on the top, and what I want to do is try and put the cargo down. I'll go and take it over here. I've got to get down now extremely carefully, bearing in mind everything I've said. I can't get down like I was before. There we go. When your load swings, right, if it's swinging like that, it will stop. But when it swings violently, think of it, if you've got a jar of water and some string tied around, right, the jar at the top, right, and you swing that jar like a pendulum, if you want it to stop, you move your hand in the same direction as the swing. Okay, so if this is swinging left and right, if you literally nudge your helicopter over to the direction that it's swinging, you can stop it from swinging. It's not easy to do. Now as you can see, look, I'm barely moving. Now I want to put this load down. So I can do, and it's going to take for ages, as long as I don't let that go down too far, and it's going down too far. The easiest thing is to lose your height and then drop it off, remembering of course that we've got 49 plus about 2.5 feet height. The radar altimeter is switched off, so I think the easiest thing to do would be go down here, lose height, watch the buildings, they're quite tall, and see if I can deliver it on this road. The actual mission is go over the river and go to a town over there and drop the supplies off for troops. And when you do that, you're being shot at as you go along, and you've got so many cargo parcels to send over in a certain amount of time. Now where's my altimeter? There it is. This is going to take me longer because I've just let myself drift up. I'm coming down quite quick. There's my load. I am coming down quite quick, look. Let's kick back in again, the altimeter has. I'm also going quite fast. What I want to start doing soon is slowing down. And I'm trying to be as smooth as I can, because I don't want the load to swing all over the place. There we go, it's not bad. I'm going to have to turn round. Still 900,000 feet. Let's turn around and see if we can try and deliver this on that road. At the moment, the way it's going, I'm going to hit the trees. Oh, let's get this moving before I VRS with the load on.
The load is swinging fore and aft.
Yeah, okay, 10's not bad. Now, when you do the slinging, when I'm training you, once you're happy with slinging, right, then you go on to the difficult ones, and the difficult ones have got the building by it, or the roof, or in between the buildings. And the reason for those is the air pushing down. The air pushing down on the from the helicopter will hit the buildings or the roof and bounce off in different directions, and that makes it really, really difficult. And that's why it's worth doing. It's a challenge. And it's surprising how many people actually will go and do it. The one on the roof is good because the air bounces off 2 different directions. And another point, in fact, you should be aware of is that when you try and climb a mountain, if you're really low down, you'll never get up the mountain, and you'll find that your helicopter, especially the Huey, will be in flames before you get there. The reason being is that the air coming down hits the mountain and comes off at an angle, so it pushes you back down the mountain. Now the issue is with that, you can feel yourself being pushed down the mountain. The problem being you want to go up the mountain, so you give it more collective. And because you give it more collective, the air that's bouncing down is more. It bounces off the mountain and pushes you down even more than it was before. So then you increase it more, and eventually you'll burn your engine out. So you stop basically moving, and then your helicopter bursts into flames and you drop out of the sky. Over 154
Kev
foot.
said 500 feet per minute. Decent rate is the magic number.
Yeah.
Any more than that and you're in VRS territory.
Yeah, can you see the number there? The 5? Just underneath the 0.
Platty trying flying said, like a VRS?
Yeah, so it'll push you down and it'll just burn your helicopter up. So the trick is when you want to go onto anywhere high or go up a mountain, you get to the height that you want to land at. Think of the mountain. You want to get up to that height of the mountain, right, before you actually get there. Right, so now I've got to try and drop this load as close as I can to the crossroads. Oops, now if I move back and around like I'm doing now, it's going to be damaged. There's the crossroads. Don't usually try and do precision bloody. Cargo's unhooked. Oh, where is it? Anyone see my cargo? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Oh, look at that. I think that was it. Let's get down and have a look, shall we? Let's come down the road. I can't turn my pedals anymore to the right because my footstool's in the way, which is not great. Can we see the cargo, anyone? Don't tell me it's disappeared through the floor. I think it's right on the corner, isn't it? Oh, VRS, look. Lost it. Oh, stopped it. Do you see what I mean? That just dropped then into a VRS and that was a save. I'll take that. Right, where's the cargo? I thought it was down here. I think it might have disappeared into the floor because it didn't say your cargo's damaged, did it? After all that. Right, but you get the gist. And actually VRS then. And then it even took me a while. Obviously I'm talking as I'm doing stuff, but it took me a while then to think, what have I got to do again? And that's the problem. And you got so little time. I am absolutely gobsmacked. I didn't hit anything. Where's the base? Anyone? It'll be over here somewhere, won't it, I think. Anyone know where the base is? Oh man. Oh yeah. Right. It's over there. Right, you get the gist. Weapons and things I'm not going to cover.
Can you do it again?
Man, seriously, how I got out of that, because I'd got a building right there, I'd got trees there and lampposts, and I was waiting for the clunk, and I didn't hit anything. I was amazed. I won't cover weapons and things because then that's a whole different thing. But once you can fly smooth and you've got gunners on the doors, right, you've got to think about the gunners. You're not flying for yourself, you're flying for them. And you've got to give them targets. So when you've got gunners, they can only go so far left and right of these doors. And you'll find that you've got to keep your helicopter in position so that they can shoot. I will do guns and things. As I said, the guy that I'm doing this for, I've probably already done far more than I should at this stage, because it will get mind-blowing. And if you can learn the Huey, let's go over here. If you can learn the Huey, you'll find it will make all your helicopter flying so much easier. It really will, because you learn your control in the Huey, and then you learn the systems and the way that the other helicopters fly. On the other helicopters, if you want the Apache, you want to fly the Apache, learn this, then fly the Shark, learn how the Shark trimmer works, and when you move over to the Apache, the trimmer works exactly the same but with different values. And as long as you get used to doing it on the Shark, you don't need to buy it, you just need to download it for 2 weeks, and just you fly on the trimmer, you set the trimmer, you reset the trimmer, you reset the trimmer, you reset the trimmer, and when you're in the Apache, you set the trimmer, and you constantly resetting the trimmer. Not a reset, you're setting it and setting it and setting it, and in conjunction with the attitude hold and the altitude hold, you can make the Apache sit there as solid as you can with the Shark. When you put the Shark in auto hover, it will sit there and it will not move. Trust me. But you've got to understand again how that control system works. It's different to this. It's different to the Shark. But use these as stepping stones to it. Right, hopefully for some people that was useful. Has anybody got any questions? I will be streaming Star Citizen again a little bit later, because I want to test out some of the armour and the way a couple of the ships, the Iron and the Inferno, work now compared to how they did work, because they was a little bit nerfed, but now they've got a bit of armour, and things have changed. It'll be interesting to try them out. Has anyone got any questions? If you want to watch this, if you go to my YouTube channel, which is MELL DCS, it was all recorded in 4K 60 FPS. On Twitch it's just 1080p, but obviously you've got a bit more control over the YouTube one. Right, it's all quiet. Okay, fair enough. If no one's got any questions, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully somebody learned something. I did it for a guy called, what was his name, Frank and Dies Again or something like that, who popped on my stream yesterday, and hopefully he will pick something up from that. I'll go and pop you all over to somebody on DCS.
Said, catch you later.
Yeah, cheers, matey. Yeah, I'll be on Star Citizen again soon. Nice to see you around. So let's have a little look. Who we got on? Anybody I know? Oh, he's flying the Apache. Let me just check. See if this guy's English speaking. No, he's German. And unfortunately, I know the vast majority of people will not understand him, even though he'd probably speak in English. This guy is Italian. Oh, good grief. At least it's gone up to 48 viewers now. When I came on, there was 5 people watching. Oh, that's me. Alright, let me go and jump on this guy. Whether he's completely new or what, I don't know. So I'm going to pass you guys over. As always, anybody who streams DCS, always please give them some support. There's so few people actually stream it, and anybody new is always worth encouraging. Okay, he's got 1 viewer at the moment. I think he's English speaking, so as I said, please give him some support. And he's got a bit of DCS before lunch, and he's looking for a job. All right, cheers all, thank you very much and goodbye. Right, those on YouTube, thank you. and I'll be